What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Start Thinking Forward podcast. Today we have a guest, a special guest today. So Josh, you're on the line. So let's have a little chit chat real quick and introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So you and me, Brandon, we're both military vets. I had 5 years in the United States Navy as a U.S. Navy journalist way back when, during the original Desert Storm. And, I had the unique opportunity, if anyone's ever seen the movie Good Morning Vietnam, to have been mentored by Adrian Cronauer. And I don't mean like Miyagi, where we spent lots of time together, but he came in a couple of times and spent some time with us and really shared a powerful message about serving audiences and what a sacred obligation that is, and what a powerful opportunity that is to do good in the world and to truly help people and to save lives, which of course is kind of part of his story, of which history kind of vindicated him on, even though he had to make some hard choices. But from my experience in the Navy, that really led me to serve audiences through my own businesses. And my first company, I shouldn't say my first, but my first company to do well, did all right, was Savings Angel, which I launched in 2007, went on to become a 7-figure a year company. And I did that with zero advertising. And how I did that was serving audiences. I give away everything. I just give away the farm. And I've always tried to be as transparent. I've always tried to be as helpful. Like when you have stage time and you have the opportunity to do good in the world, don't hold back. Like answer those questions, like truly advocate for that listener, truly advocate for that audience and ask them, what do they really need right now? But, from my Savings Angel experience, I ended up getting I've been in the media over 2,500 times now. And those media appearances kind of accidentally led to me serving in my local startup community. Well, not that was intentional. I was able to serve on boards, do a lot of pro bono work in our local community, military veteran owned, a lot of work with military veteran owned business owners, helping them get some PR for their business. Minority owned, women owned businesses, just participating in a way where we could provide equal access to the starting line for all entrepreneurs, so that we all can have access to, the free enterprise system. And from that's where my influence came about. I wasn't intending on starting another company, but lo and behold, that's what happened when you just get out there and doing good stuff. And so my influence today, we work primarily with agencies, consultants, coaches, B2B service providers. And what I do, and I'm pretty good at, I'm pretty average at a lot of stuff in life, but if there's one thing I'm probably one of the best on the planet at, is filling sales schedules with exceptionally qualified guests. And I'm a huge fan. I'll open up the playbook and I had to break it all down exactly how I do what I do, everything. But I'm a huge fan of leading with generosity. I'm a huge fan of leveraging platform. And I'm also pretty keen on earning proximity, authority being one of those tools. So there's a lot of elements I just introduced right there, and we can get as tactical as you like.
So I know today's topic is about, why serving a large audience is key to business growth. So I want to dive deep in that. Our operations here, we're a SaaS operation, and, we're targeting a lot of local businesses, especially like dentistries, lawyers' offices. So a lot of HVAC, like just people that are trying to grow their business at a local level. So that's what we do. So when you start saying why serving large audience is the key to business growth, and I think I've seen some material also where you kind of build it off of talking to audience. You just built your business off, keep going to multiple groups and talking. Can you share a little bit more light on that?
Well, yeah, so, and I want to be sensitive to the friend that's listening to our conversation right now, saying, well, yeah, duh, sir, getting in front of a lot of people, of course, that's going to help me in business. I'm more interested in how to get that, which I'm happy to kind of share exactly what I did step by step. But so here's the thing, and this is a really important, we'll talk about this first, is we need to be very honest about where the minds of consumers are today. And for 15, 16 years, since 2007, I have served as a consumer advocate, and I teach to consumer skills. I study consumer behavior. And one book that I'll give a shout out to, I think that has done really great work on where consumers' brains are, is a book called Marketing Rebellion by Mark Schaefer. And what Mark will illustrate is exactly what we all know, or those who study this, and I think we would all agree with this, is that consumers have never been more protective of their attention. Consumers have never been more skeptical. Consumers have never been more protective of their time when it comes to being sold at. Why is this the case? It's because populations have been experimented upon like never before when it comes to the access that marketers have had to our attention. So what's happened now is you've created a population that has just been inundated with ads like never before. Well, what do you think is going to happen? Well, marketers it's like a swarm of locusts that have come and just completely decimated the crops. There's nothing left. Audiences don't want to be sold at, period. And so if you as a marketer, or you as a business owner, you're doing the best that you can, right? And the current thinking or current folks that you've been following have said, here's your strategy. You just want to spray and pray. You just want to keep slamming out those emails. You just want to keep sliding into those DMs and get right to the point and start selling at people. And you're going to be able to get a percentage of a percentage of a percentage. And that's good enough. Keep on doing it. Or dump a bunch of money into ads and just blanket the market with advertising. I'm not saying you shouldn't advertise, but you need to understand that it's a lot harder today than it was even 5 years ago. I mean, it's really hard today. So if you, in particular, and I want to get a little targeted here to the folks that I typically serve the most, and these would be agency owners, consultants, coaches, B2B service providers. You're offering generally larger ticket engagements. Your sales style is consultative. Your sales style is relationship oriented. God bless you. And that's who I work with. We have over 200 clients, and that's who we serve. But what we do is we say, listen, we need a better non-interruptive, non-spammy, non-slimy way of getting you more conversations. Because, and this is a really important point, Brandon, for those of us, again, who are in the agency world or coaching or whatever, where does revenue come from? Revenue comes from closed sales. You just have to write more business if you want to drive more revenue. It's not going to come from it's your main driver if you do account-based sales and consultative selling. So you need to close more deals. To close more deals, you need to have more sales conversations. Mm-hmm. To have more sales conversations, I would argue that the best way to do that is you just need to be building more meaningful relationships with exceptionally qualified dream connections, partners, people that are qualified. Stop selling to people that don't have money. Stop selling to people that are kind of below, like they're just constantly running, they're tire kickers. Like that's not a good use of your time, and it's not a good use of their time either. And it's frustrating. It feels icky. So instead, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're associating. You want to go where you're welcomed, not where you want to go where you're celebrated, not tolerated.
Exactly.
Right? And yeah. So just kind of put a cherry on that note, to get more meaningful relationships, you just simply need to have a lot more irons in the fire. And so the way to invite more people into your life is you're going to need to lead with generosity. There's another book recommendation, and this is the number one book recommendation. I recommend it several times a week. Every time I'm on a podcast, I'm talking about this book, and it's by Bob Berg, and it's called The Go-Giver. Right? You can either read the original red one, the green one's pretty on point. Go-Givers sell more. I don't work for Bob. I don't work for Mark. I'm happy to give praise in lots of other places because these are the folks that have mentored me. Mm-hmm. And so as you could tell, like this guy likes to celebrate other people. That's a big part of this. But what I would say is that today, you have to lead with generosity. You have to lead with what, if you're truly advocating for somebody else, do they really want to jump on a discovery call with you just because you slid into their DM? Like you might be the greatest service provider in the world, but because they don't know you, it's a non-starter. If you spam me, I have layers of protection to keep me, team members and systems and automation and spam filters, like everything to keep me focused on what I need to be focused on. Most busy business owners and decision makers are the same way. They are really protective of their time and attention. So we have to understand that. So you have to reach out with something that is a no-brainer. It's so generous that and it fits exactly with who your folks are, what they actually want at this point. And for me, we're a big fan of leveraging platform. Use platform to make other people look and feel amazing. Give them the emotions and feelings of significance. Truly do a solid for other people and truly make investments into relationships. And here's what's going to happen, Brandon, and I know you know this as well, like you will not be able to outgive the market. When you keep showing up at that level, people will trip over themselves to reciprocate if you're just a solid, good business leader. Business leaders love finding ways to collaborate and help one another when they like each other. So that should give us some clues about maybe where we should be spending our time.
I agree. So the next question I got for you, and I know a lot of people in the audience, it definitely wants to hear this. How did you generate more than $6 million in revenue with less than $500 in advertisement?
Yeah. And that, by the way, saying $500 is just kind of a catch-all just in case, like maybe we boosted some posts and like had nothing to show for that necessarily. So I would conservatively say under $500. I would say it's probably about $50. Wow. And so here's what I did. And here's how I ended up getting, I got all of those sales because I showed up in the media over 2,500 times. I've been a syndicated newspaper columnist for over 15 years. I've been on TV alone more than 800 times. That's how I connect with and serve and bring value to audiences. It's the same thing whether you're a speaker or whether you're trying to create more one-on-one conversations. The more value you bring and the easier you make it for the meeting planners, for the producers, for the journalists, for the content creators, if you make their job ridiculously easy and your approach is all about them and it's not about you, then you will earn their trust. So here's what I did. Rather than, and it's just ridiculous, what I see, some people say, well, I'm going to get a lot of media. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write up a press release and I'm going to use this email blast program and I'm just going to spam all these journalists. You want to know how well that's going to work? I think you can make some guesses. It ain't going to work at all. Bar none. It is not going to get you any press coverage if you spam journalists. However, and here's the sad thing, lazy marketers, that's what they do. Lazy, bad PR professionals, that's what they'll do. And in fact, I spoke on this very specifically at Social Media Marketing World, and I think I have the distinct privilege of being one of the most polarizing speakers they've ever had, because I really took the PR industry to task. Okay, it is all about understanding what are the needs of that TV show, of that news program, of that producer, that morning show producer. What do they need? So what I did is I called a meeting and I said, listen, I would love to advertise. I don't have budget, but what I do have is a particular set of skills, right? Just like, which is like Liam Neeson, and skills that make me very valuable for people like you. So what I offered to do is I said, listen, I will work my tail off to provide valuable content. If we just want to test it one time, here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to share very specifically how your listeners can go get free Cheerios this week. I'm going to give them the exact website. They're going to print out a coupon. They're going to take it into Myers when I was living up in Michigan, and they're going to be able to get Cheerios for 50 cents a box or whatever it is, right? And so they're like, well, that could be valuable, right? So the offer has to be good enough where it's going to get their attention. And I said, listen, I have nothing, I don't need to sell my thing. I am cool. I'm just here to serve, and I'm here to make the world a better place. Again, when you show that level of trust in audiences, when you show that level of trust in your partners, it's like, it's like that kind of like thing. It's like, if you want to get to a stalemate real quick, start arguing politics or religion with someone and tell them how you're right and they're wrong. Yeah, good luck with that. Because that ain't going to get anywhere. So instead, you may as well understand that, Savior asks, it's do a solid and keep on showing up with a servant's heart, and it will feel inefficient at first, because in your brain, you're like, oh, no, we got to get that money. Okay, you will get the money, but you got to earn your way into the club. You got to earn your way into, if you want to be in the media, you have to give them what they want and need. So produce better content, stuff that's really going to serve them. And again, make it all about the audience, make it all about, being a great partner for them. And that is how you will earn friendships. And once you earn friendships in the media, and you've shown that you can show up, consistently, you're always presenting maybe great story ideas, you're media ready, you're practiced, like you've really paid your dues. Brandon, it gets easy. It just gets really, really easy, to the point that I haven't done a single media pitch in years. I mean, a decade. And it's always because of my existing relationships. They're always asking me, can you do a story on this? I'm like, absolutely, I'm happy to. So that's how we grew Savings Angel. In its current form, I no longer operate the kind of the paid model of that right now. I ended up, folks lost interest in couponing, and I was already moving on to consulting small business owners. But anyway, there's the long answer to your short question. I just want to make sure that I'm as thorough as possible for someone's like, no, you don't understand. I'm listening to this podcast episode because I need to know this. So that's hence my little bit longer than normal answers. Forgive me for that.
You're the subject matter expert on this, so that's why I'm pretty sure everyone is definitely tuned in. The next thing I want to ask you is, why do you believe? Well, no. What's the difference between authority and influence, and why should one pick one or the other, or is it a combination of both you need? What would you say on that?
That's a great question. Okay, so let's talk about these two elements, because we want both, right? Now, authority is like, it's kind of, okay, there's this scene in Harry Potter. This is the best analogy I like. There's a scene in Harry Potter where he has this stuff. It's called the Felix Felicis. I live in Orlando, so we went to Universal Studios, and I actually bought a bottle of this. I don't know if it works. I don't think it does. I think it's just candy. But it's basic. It's called Lucky Juice. So what happens is Harry drinks the Lucky Juice, and then all of a sudden it's like everything just works out for him. Okay. I have gone to conferences as another face in the crowd. I'm a nobody there. And I know exactly how that feels, because that's most of them. And then there have been conferences conferences where I'm like the featured keynote speaker, like, and everyone's there to see me. I'm on stage, like, and I'm connected. Like, it is a completely different experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you have perceived and real and communicated authority, it's like the lucky juice. It's like being in that position where everyone's like, "Oh, can I get a selfie with you? Hey, ooh, can I, can we hire you? Can we, it's like opportunities just fall in your lap." Now, it was not like that at the beginning, and I had to earn my dues, and Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither were any of my businesses. I had to earn that. So just like media, like when we were, the first version of Up My Influence, we were doing media consulting and PR services. And so people would say, "Hey, can you get me on the Today Show?" And I'm like, "Yes, I can." And they're like, "Wow, that's great." And I said, "Well, where are you at right now? What is your level of media? What's your authority?" And they're like, "Well, I haven't been on TV yet." I'm like, "Okay, well, you could still get on the Today Show, but it's probably going to take you a couple of years." And anyone who tells you're either going to pay a ton of money, like a ton of money, like $50, $60, $80,000, and you can get included in someone else's media segment. And so it's a pay to play opportunity. That's one option, but there ain't no way. I mean, unless you are truly like, right place, right time, you had something go viral or whatever. Yeah, they're not going to take you. You haven't honored the system. It's like, people who say, "Well, I want to be a best-selling musician." Yeah, you can be there, but it just, Americans especially love that whole rags to riches idea. But when, and I know, Brandon, you've done a lot of interviews. That's not the way it works in business. Mm-hmm. It's like everyone's got a backstory. Yeah. Everyone pays their dues. And if you keep trying to shortcut the system, you'll never earn what you need to earn so you could be the person that truly owns that authority. I've just done the work. I keep showing up. So authority is, there's one thing, like you can have the authority, but then you also need to do a really good job of communicating the authority. So having authority and not communicating that authority is kind of like if, like, let's say in the dating world, like you're a solid 9, but your dating profile, it sucks. Like that's unfortunately with what I think a lot of us do. And it's like we'll intentionally have bad dating profiles because like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about myself. Oh, I don't want to brag," or whatever. Like, that's not how people, like if your heart's in the right place, that's not how people see it. They want to know what your credentials are. They want to know your success. They want to know, can you help me with your problems? Are you qualified? Have you done this before? Right. And so it's like authority without communicate is like me giving you a huge sack of cash and you go bury it in the backyard. Like, is it valuable? Yeah, but it's really only valuable when you're doing something with it. So what's really important is that we want to make sure that we're looking for opportunities on our website, on our social, in a very thoughtful, honoring way, authentic way. We want to be able to communicate. What are we doing? What problems are we solving? You have authority through association. So for example, like if you've, why you're on TV, it's like, that's why media credentials still work. It's when you say, people say, "Oh no, that stuff doesn't," it does. Like when you say "as seen on CNBC," you might hate CNBC, but you're still going to recognize that CNBC has authority because you were on CNBC, you have authority transference, you have authority through association. It's like I've spoke for the Tony Robbins organization. You might not like Tony Robbins, but you're still going to say, well, if Tony's team said yes to Josh and had him speak to their business mastery audience, there's probably something going on with Josh that I should probably give him a little bit more consideration. It's authority through association. Numbers, thank goodness for social media, because that's the greatest way to show that people kind of care what you talk about. So that's another one. But influence is a little bit different, right? So influence comes from your ability to make change and make impact in the world. And I think influence with authority in the business world is ridiculously powerful. So influence is going to come when people continue to like what you have to say and they keep showing up, and then they recommend and refer you to other people. So influence on a micro scale or macro scale here, we could think, or micro scale here, we could think about, like, let's say you're a realtor in your local market. And if you had 200 centers of influence who, when asked, who would you recommend to sell my house? Oh, definitely Josh. Josh, I like him. He's great. He's honest. He's really easy to work with. He's really well connected. Like, if you have 200 people that would say that, it's kind of game, set, match. You're set for life. And today, when we ask who is a center of influence, pretty much everybody is, because of social media, because of platform. So the goal should not be how many people can you spam and sell at. It should be how many people can you build meaningful relationships with, particularly your centers of influence who believe in you, who, when asked, would say, I don't know exactly, like, I haven't worked with Josh, but I like Josh and I trust Josh. You should at least talk to Josh. Like, that's what you want. You want hundreds of people in that setting. And the only way to get there is you're just going to have to start investing in relationships day after day, week after week after week. Truly, no sales, just providing the greatest good you can in the world, and then they'll do your work for you.
Wow, that's powerful. So it's the first quarter of 2023, and I always run, my years like literally a game. Like, here's the first quarter, second, third, fourth quarter, it's over with. So I guess the next question is, what are the most important things you should do if you're wanting to get sales rolling right now? What is the most important, mission critical things that,
yes,
if you're a small business, what is it that you need to be doing right now to start getting those sales rolling?
Yeah, more sales conversations. It's just, and it sounds like such a no-duh answer, so stick with me here. All right, so again, kind of getting back to this formula that I shared earlier, to get more meaningful sales conversations, you have to be opening up the conversation with exceptionally qualified buyers. If in the business world, you're a 5, you're just middle of the road. You're not a judge on Shark Tank. You're not, you haven't done a $1 billion exit. You're just out there doing your thing, right? And if you sell to 3s and 4s, just whatever, just keep on being out there and keep on serving mass audiences. But if you sell to 6s and 7s, right, you're, what you're wanting to do and what you're asking me in that situation is, how can I punch up a couple of levels? And I need more face time with people that have budget. These are my people. I work with agency owners, coaches, consultants, right? And so the fastest way, again, you're going to have to follow a go-giver path if you want to get time with them. So, which I was looking over for my Go-Giver book right here, right? Just go listen to this book. It's awesome. All right. So then, what I think that the tool that we all have access to, that I think is so underutilized today. So many people use platform and they use it to make themselves look good. And they use it to, make it all about them. If you can take your platform and make it all about how to win friends, influence people, and just truly celebrate other people, you're going to find a magic is going to happen. When you can make people feel amazing for their contribution in the world, when you can truly give to other people and shine the spotlight on them, it's like audiences appreciate that. The guest loves it. And if this guest is a center of influence, would you be willing to invest time and resources into that relationship? Well, if you're not willing to do that, then we're kind of at an impasse at this point. But if you are willing to do that, then I suggest you get pretty serious about this. So how can we use platform for good? Now, at Up My Influence, I have a podcast, and it's called The Thoughtful Entrepreneur. I've done over 1,500 episodes recorded, right? What you're hearing me do is I am shining the spotlight on great business leaders. I want to make them feel awesome. I've got a good audience. I'm going to really do a solid for them, right? But you don't even have to have a big audience. Don't let me forget, I'll share an example of how to do this. But The Thoughtful Entrepreneur is me just making other people feel and look amazing. And guess what happens? At the end of those conversations, I say, let's grab some time. I don't know if I've got introductions. I don't know if maybe there's some opportunity for us to collaborate. I'd love to figure it out, and then I approach that relationship with, what else could I possibly do to help them? Right. And so that's what I'm looking for. Is it introductions? And again, some people like, Josh, when am I going to get paid? Right. Just again, this is going to feel inefficient at the beginning. But when you recognize the caliber of people that you're now able to associate with, it gets real easy, and you just got to get a lot of these things going in your world, and then stuff will inevitably happen. So what you want is introductions. What you want is collaborations. What you want is, it's two business. You want to get to a point where two successful business leaders are now saying, I like you like me. We like each other. Like, we're friends. We've got rapport. We've got the know, like, and trust built up. Like, let's figure out what we can do together. Come maybe with some ideas, but approach it with curiosity. Do not approach conversations like this with an agenda to sell, or people are going to hate you. So you just have to be cool, and you have to keep always show up in generosity. Now, what we find, and again, with our couple hundred clients, is about 20-25% of the time, they end up doing direct business together. And then another 50% of the time, they end up doing other stuff together. Those are really good numbers, particularly if you sell big ticket, $10, $15, $20,000 on up, all right? That is really good activity. And in fact, it makes the whole spray and pray, slamming people's DMs, cold email, cold calling, all this other stuff. Boy, it makes that stuff look like amateur hour. It really does. Because I don't like that. I don't like being sold to that way, but I love doing business with my friends. And often I end up hiring my podcast guests, because I love what they do so much. I probably hire about once every 45 days. I'm going to hire one of my guests for something. And about once or twice a week, they end up hiring me. Those are good numbers, man. That's all I do. I have been 100% inbound now. If you want to be 100% inbound, it's a good place to be. I've been 100%. When we're recording this, I've been 100% inbound with my dream customers for 3 years, 2 months, and 2 days. November 18th, 2019. That's when I told the team, stop talking about the podcast. Stop promoting for guests. We have more guests we could possibly handle. And we have been that way because we've just developed a solid reputation for just providing an amazing guest experience. Oh, the other example, let's say, because I want to address this, Brandon, because there's probably someone that's listening. They're like, okay, Josh, yeah, but you have a pretty good social media following. I don't have that. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's a great example. Went to a conference where I was a nobody, which is, again, most places I go. It's like, I'm big. I tell you what, I'm really popular at the nerd table. But get me away from the nerd table. It's like, who's this guy? He talks a little too fast. He's a bit much. But here's a great example of how you could start with nothing, and you could leverage platform to create proximity, which leads to who knows what. And we have to be open to whatever the good outcome is. Went to an event. It's not my event. It's my wife's event. My wife is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She works with a lot of mixed faith couples, where one has been in a high demand religion and has left, and the other one wants to stay in that high demand religion. It's a very unique thing that she does, and a unique clientele that she works with. So she's at a conference where, there's a lot of people like her. I'm a nobody. I'm just there to support her. But I believe in what they do. I love the work that they're doing. So I found the organizer, the whole event. She's very accessible. And I said, hey, I'm a member of this group and, this Facebook group. And I said, would you mind if we just did a quick live stream and kind of talked about, this event and what you guys are doing? And there's no rules in the group where, I think people in the group would really love it. There's clearly no violation of terms. Sure, you could do a live stream and share some valuable content with the group. There's nothing for sale. I'm not selling anything in that live stream. Again, it's all about her. So I grabbed my phone. I said, let's do a quick live stream. I grab my phone. I go live in the group. I said, hey, we're on the ground and I've got so-and-so here. And I just play journalist basically. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, tell me what you guys are doing. What's on the speaker spot? Let's go around and maybe talk to some of the vendors that are here. And so now just like, think about it. If you're a meeting planner, you're an organizer, and someone does this for you, man, that is just so, it's just so nice. It feels good. And then these vendors who are paying money to be there, and all of a sudden they're like, who's this guy? But cool, right? And so now I'm like building all these relationships through service. So we get done with it, and she's like, man, thank you so much for doing that. It's like, what can I do for you? You'll hear this. If you hear this a lot, you're doing it well. What can I do for you? Right. Yeah. And said, well, no, it's just, I'm here to support my wife. My wife works with Natasha, Natasha. Oh, yeah. So then I make an introduction. They get to know each other. Will it turn into anything? Maybe. I don't really care. Because again, if you have the heart of a servant, you're a true servant leader, and you truly believe in giving, you just trust the process. It might be years later that my wife's name comes up, not in the Will Smith way, but just like it comes up in just conversation or whatever. And that organizer, who is definitely a center of influence, oh, I know Jenny, blah, 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 blah. So great example of this is how I got the Tony Robbins thing. Is I was friends with David Meerman Scott. We're not friends. I was a fanboy of David Meerman Scott. He's the guy that created the term newsjacking, and he's a very popular author, really cool guy. So I love his work. I created content all about how awesome he is, and his, and just how to get very practical with the stuff that he talks about. So from that, I created this content, and David Meerman Scott's like, wow, man, thank you so much for that. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Fast forward a year later, and I find out he's going to be speaking at a Tony Robbins event. And I said, hey, David, I don't know if you remember me, blah, 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 but I'm going to be at this event, and I see that you're speaking. He goes, yeah, absolutely. I said, listen, is there any way I can go get a photo with you? Just love to grab a few minutes. He's like, oh, totally. Right. And so then, so I find him, he's at the tables with his wife or whatever, and he's got a booth or whatever. So anyway, I said, hey, listen, thank you. You grabbed the photo. He goes, listen, I said, it may be way too early for me, but to speak at Business Mastery here. But what is that process like? Because, I've done my fair amount of speaking, and I've had some pretty decent business success. He goes, no, hang on. I'll introduce you to the exact person. So here's what happens. This dude's like, he's like 6'5" or something like that. I'm definitely not a tall guy. So he's like takes off. He's like, follow me. And he's like cutting through this audience. Just like, it's so funny. He's like, I'm just like trying to catch up with this guy. He's like, he's like taking me to the exact person who handles all of the speakers for the Tony Robbins organization, introduces me. He goes, this guy has been in the media over 2,500 times. He's an amazing speaker. He's producing content. He's got a huge audience. You need to get him on your agenda for the Business Mastery series. And she's like, great. Yeah, Josh, let's get your information. Let's chat. That's the power. It's stuff like that. And you have no idea. It's like, how many of us have been in business for a while, and it's like, we get a piece of business. You're like, well, how did we get connected? I don't know. So-and-so introduced. Well, I don't even know so-and-so. It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. That's the kind of stuff when you keep showing up as a giver, is people will reciprocate, and you get to a point where you will not be able to outgive the market.
So that's powerful. And I think that's a key. And I talked about it a couple of days ago. I said, what I found oftentimes is when I go out of my way to help others, in that same process, I wind up helping myself. Where, like just recently, partnered with the Atlanta Legends, and this is an organization that's G League, so it's right under the NBA. And in that process of helping them, it has helped me because I've gotten introduced to some people. I've gotten some new clients as a result of that. So, but when I went into that situation, I didn't have any motives other than let me help this person because they need X, Y. Mm-hmm. I have the resources, and it has opened up a plethora of different things to me. So I think that's very interesting.
Yeah. And I would say, Brandon, there's probably someone who's like, wait a minute, are you just saying I'm just going to give away all my time for free? Yeah. However, you need to know who you're of greatest value to, and who, the relationship's only going to go so far, right? So, when I am doing service, I'm doing service, where there's no, and I kind of like, I like the principle of tithing when it comes to like our time and our, it's like what we've done, like, let's go help people who need your help, and just know that there is no expectation of them. It's like, it's like, it's like to say, it's like, should you ever lend money to family? Like, nope. You should give it to them and just know that it is never coming back. So it's kind of like that same thing. Like there's, I don't call it charity work, but there's service work where it's just like, I'm just out here just doing a good thing. Right. But then like, you have to be protective. Like I just had a conversation with someone. She's like, hey, we're pre-revenue, blah, 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 blah. And I said, man, listen, I've got some great free resources. I don't know that there's a whole lot I can do for you other than that, because I'm just not, I don't have the bandwidth, and I don't really have the services to help pre-revenue companies. And I'm so sorry for that. But that's what I use as a filtering mechanism as well. You give democratization is one of our core values, but that doesn't mean you give away all your time to people that are not qualified. You want to give away your time and resources to folks that are exceptionally qualified, because that is absolutely going to turn into business. And that should be probably, I'm going to guess, maybe 90% of your time. And then 10% of your time, you're giving it away. And it's just basically charity, right? You're just giving and serving and making the world a better place with that, with no expectation of return. So I think that that's a good, I would say, good ratio. And, for believers, kind of biblical in nature too.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. So any parting words, and how do people get in contact with you? Because I mean, having you here has really energized me, and I'm like, whoa! I know for a fact I will be reaching out to you. We're going to be doing some business together. And like I said, for me, it's been consistency, like having an audience, building an audience, and not plugging in. And
Yep.
When you said earlier, I'm a realist, so. When you said 1,500 episodes, I was like, wow. So
yeah, you just keep showing up. It's like Captain America, right? You just keep getting up. That's it. For me though, it's like, I felt like, Richard Gere in Officer and Gentleman. It's like, I got nowhere else to go. I don't know what else to do. All I know is that I don't bother with shiny object stuff at all. And most mature business leaders, you could really tell like who's either struggling or early stage by how enamored they are by shiny objects. Whereas I think a lot of your more veteran business leaders and owners, like, that's cool. I'm gonna keep my eye on that. Thank you so much. Or I'll have someone on my team take a look at that or whatever. But I got something, it works. And it's not it's not like $1 million overnight kind of stuff, but it works well. And I keep showing up, and it's like each year we grow by about 30 to 50%. I'm cool with that. I don't need to grow 500% in 1 year. 30 to 50% growth year after year after year. That is a great trajectory. And most mature business leaders, that's how they look at it as well. There's a lot of shiny object gurus out there that love to take your money and sell you stuff. Mm-hmm. And they make big promises about, easy passive money while you just kick back and let the system, spam and, all that kind of stuff. I think the marketing world is even, I think I'm seeing so many more instances of folks, marketing leaders having a crisis of conscience, saying, you know what, I think we're not doing a good service for people. I think we've been enriching our own selves, but we're intentionally selling them stuff that doesn't work so that we keep them buying those empty promises. And I think it's better to just kind of go back to, how do you buy? What do you like? How do you like to be treated? And that's how we should show up in the world. Golden rule. How about that?
Yeah, golden rule. So, any last parting words?
Sure. Listen, two things, always looking for great guests for my podcast, The Thoughtful Entrepreneur. I would love to celebrate you. You can go to my website, and that website is www.upmyinfluence.com. upmyinfluence.com, and you'll see, like, now booking podcast guests, by all means, always looking for great guests with great stories, great domain expertise. And then number two, if you sell higher ticket, in other words, the value of a client is north of $10,000. I do so much for free. I teach what other people. I don't do e-courses and all that other nonsense. It's like, either I'm just going to teach you for free, and if you're at the DIY level, then I'm not going to sell you tripwire stuff and all that junk. Like, I'm either going to teach you for free because you're just at that stage of business, or if you've got some budget to play with, so you can really ramp up sales. And I'm a virtual chief revenue officer. Is how I come in. So if you sell big ticket, you've got decent authority, and you're relationship oriented, which is mandatory for us, then please, go to upmyinfluence.com. I do a free webinar. It's a non-sales webinar. It's basically just like, hey, I'm going to open up my books. I'm going to get, I get real specific. I share a lot more numbers. I share a lot more resources, examples, books, and stuff like that, things that you can immediately use. But then, if it feels appropriate, we can always grab time, but that's completely up to you. Most importantly is I'm an evangelist, as you could tell, for this way of doing business. Go make the world a better place. Be genuine, be authentic. Your reputation will carry you very, very far in this world. Again, just keep showing up as a giver. And again, you'll get to that point where you will be able to, you'll be running circles around the people that keep, with the sell stuff. They'll fizzle and burn out because it's not working. And meanwhile, you will have a network. It's not what you know, it's who you know. It's your network is your net worth. It's all of that. That's what it should be building for in 2023.
Wow. Well, Josh, I want to definitely thank you for being on the show today. I know for a fact the listeners will definitely enjoy this. It's very informative, and I definitely want to have you back on the show again to dive a little bit deeper in some more concepts. We were literally almost at the hour mark, and the whole time it was like I'm sitting here taking notes because this is all good stuff, and I think it's information that businesses need, and figuring out how they're going to implement this, and what better time than the first quarter. What better time to get this information? What better time to connect with your brand, up your influence? So what better time to do it than now? Why it's the beginning of 2023. So many people said that they were going to do it last year. Here's another opportunity for you to get in the game. And we got a subject matter expert here, Josh. So I definitely appreciate you coming to the show today. Thank you so much for being here.
Brian, it's been my privilege. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank